Test 1, 2, 3. מתבקש לקחת כיסא לשבת, בבקשה. כל מי שבפנים, שבו, כי אנחנו נרצה בעוד פחות מ10 דקות להתחיל. אז אני מבקש מכולם לשבת.
במניפה הזאת כאן, בסדר? כי אני לא רוצה שאני אתחיל להפוך את הדפים, בסדר?
In 3 minutes, we'll open the line to the president in Kiev, okay? נאור, איפה אתה? אוקיי, 2 דקות אנחנו פותחים את הקו. כבר 2 דקות ל-12 אנחנו פותחים את הקו, כן? We're told from the presidential office in Kiev that it will take another 2 or 3 minutes, so have some patience, please. נאור, מישהו בקשר טלפוני איתם? אוקיי, אוקיי, תודה. ממש עוד דקה, זה מה שהם אומרים מקייב. מה? Almost there. Fine. אפשר להתחיל? Okay, we want to start. Thank you very much. Good afternoon from Jerusalem. Dear Hebrew University management, faculty, students, workers, and friends from around the world, we are very pleased to host today Ukraine's President Wolodimir's Zalensky will address the community of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem about the exceptional and tragic situation in his country. We are also very pleased and honored to have with us the ambassador of Ukraine in Israel, Yevgen Kornichuk, and his delegation. Welcome to you all. The order of the day will be the following. I'll be calling on the president of the university, Professor Asher Cohen, to present our guest, and then the president of Ukraine will speak for whatever period of time he wants to speak. After that, there will be a second part, which will be 3 or 4 questions. When we get to the questions, we'll talk about how the way it's going to be working there. So it's now my pleasure to call upon the president of the Hebrew University, Professor Asher Cohen, please.
Honorable President Zalensky, dear Ukraine Ambassador to Israel, Kornichuk, University Management, staff, faculty, researchers, students, and all members of the Hebrew University community, good afternoon. Today, we have the honor of hosting the President of Ukraine, a country under siege in an unnecessary and unjust war instigated by Russia. A war in which innocent civilians are losing their lives every day, even though they have committed no crime. Innocent lives are being cut short in an instant. Children are becoming orphans. Carnage and destructions are everywhere. Conflicts between countries should be resolved through dialogue, mutual respect. In the words of Abraham Lincoln, there is no honorable way to kill, no gentle way to destroy. There is nothing good in war except its ending. In the war of public opinion and in watching the atrocities of war unfold on live television, we must not remain indifferent. Especially not we, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the leading academic institution in Israel, we who have been educating generations upon generations for tolerance and love for all humankind. Over the past few months, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem has taken in Ukrainian researchers and students who managed to escape the horrors of war. And we are doing our utmost to provide them with a sense of home, a sense of belonging. They too are with us today here. I would like to thank you, President Zalensky, for the time you are dedicating to the Hebrew University community. The stage, Mr. President, is yours.
Дуже дякую, пане президенте університету, шановні студенти, шановні викладачі, шановні присутні, пані та панове. Я вдячний за цю можливість. Для мене це честь звернутися сьогодні до вас. І ви знаєте, у мене є ще честь.
Very good chance to talk to you. Of course, I've had many requests from Israel, especially from journalists, and very often I decline requests from journalists, and I will be very open. I love your country. I decline those requests from Israeli journalists because you sometimes don't know what to say and how to answer. I've visited Israel on multiple occasions, And it is difficult sometimes for me to answer such interview requests. And I think that you will understand the reason why when you hear my address. And I think you will decide for yourself. You are smart, bright, and independent people. So if it hadn't been for the war, I could have visited your beautiful university and interact with you directly with pleasure. But since the beginning of the full-fledged invasion of the Russian Federation of the February 24th, 2022, I stay here in Kyiv, the capital city of Ukraine. The office of the president is located in the very center of the city, and if you visit Kyiv, you will surely make it to this beautiful place. And I'm sure you will visit some other highlights of our city. If you were to walk just 5 minutes, one street from where I currently sit, you will end up on the street of where the house of the Wolodymir family is located. One of the most famous Israeli women. She comes from Kyiv, and I think you know that. And if you take some more time and take a stroll on the neighboring streets to where Wolodymir lived, you will see a neighborhood which Sholem Aleichem loved very much, well-known writer. You will see the streets where he lived, the houses where he felt comfortable in, and a museum dedicated to his name. The Kyiv, like many other cities and communities of Ukraine, is filled with this heritage for Ukrainian, which is common for Ukrainian and Jewish people, and this brings us together. This is not just historical mere facts. This is the space of the real human life that has brought our cultures together. This is real life. Yitzhak Ben Zvi, one of the founders of the Israeli state, and Wolodymir Havking, one of the well-known scientists who created first vaccines against cholera and plague. Vladimir Horowitz, musician, great physics, Abraham Yoffa, Vladimir Zhabotinsky, a bright personality, and he's being read even today. And Nathan Sharansky, politician of the modern time. We both know them in our countries. And of course, the sacred places that your culture would not be possible, without which your culture would not be possible. Uman, that hosted dozens of thousands, Hasids, or Bashan too, the burial place of his, and of course the sorrow memorial places that people shouldn't forget. The Babi Yar, the Holocaust symbol, Drobytsky Yar, and other places of the occupied Ukraine where Nazis were killing innocent people. We all remember and treasure these sites, and this is all is under threat. So how can you preserve such memorial places in the all-out war? Tomorrow will be the 4th month of the full-fledged war that Russia wages against Ukraine. I think all of you have seen for yourself that this is a tragedy. You have seen what kind of war that is and how Russia wages this war. They are destroying our cities, they're burning everything on their way, what devastates the occupied territories. The main weapon of Russia is artillery, air bombs, and cruise missiles. The occupiers are not discretional in how they fight. They have very primitive tactics. They're using as much artillery and bombing capacity as possible to minimize the resistance. The Russia is hitting day and night with missiles. Most of them hit ordinary targets, houses, enterprises, infrastructure, living people. As of today, they have already used 2,700 O9 missiles, and very soon it will reach 3,000 missiles. These are not primitive missiles. Yes, of course, there are some outdated units from 1960s and Soviet Union, but there are contemporary ones as well. But for Russian missile or artillery, there is no selectivity. For example, the menorah monument in the Baba Yar was also damaged by Russian shelling. They were even targeting menorah. And not to mention the educational institutions that were destroyed in Ukraine. You're now in one of the most beautiful universities, but this is one beautiful piece of educational infrastructure. Can you imagine what 2,000 of educational institutions is that have been destroyed? 2,000 buildings. What kind of person you need to be to hit educational targets and kindergartens? Russia became the terrorist state, and I think you have heard what Russia has done to the city of Mariupol. It is probably, so it's practically non-existent now. And 4 months ago, there were 500,000 people. Right now, just several dozen thousand, and they are threatened by infectious diseases. Cholera, by the way, that Vladimir Khavkin was fighting 100 years ago. Mariupol is the city where week after week Russian occupiers are trying to hide the evidence of their crimes, burying people in their collective graves. The same has been done in the city of Volodimirka and dozens of other cities and villages in Ukraine. And what is happening on the territories where the occupiers managed to advance very quickly? They are shooting people on the streets, they are torturing people, they are raping minors, boys and girls. Russian soldiers have created filtration camps where they torture people, the thousands killed or wounded there. So they are deporting people and dispersing them in the Russian regions, and only a few of them managed to come back through the third countries to Ukraine. The number of displaced people in the last 4 months is more than 12 million people. Nowhere in Europe, 77 years after the Second World War, such things have happened, similar to what Russia has done. So tell me, how can you not help the victim of such aggression? I'm asking this question because I know that you're not indifferent. You do care. You, as dozens of millions and hundreds of millions of people in the world. So going back to why I rarely talk to journalists when requests come from Israel, I think you'll understand me. It's difficult for me. I don't know what to answer to these respected gentlemen. I don't know how to answer the questions that I always get about how has Israel helped and what else can Israel do. All journalists of all countries are asking the same questions. I just don't know what to answer. I'm grateful to the people of Israel. I'm grateful to you for the sincere and emotional support for Ukraine, for the support of Ukrainians. I'm grateful to the Ukrainian flags on your streets. We see this and we value very much all the words of support to Ukraine in your society is something that we are very grateful to. We're grateful to your great nation. But we would like to also get support from your government. I think it's only fair. For example, a small country of Luxembourg, with a population of about 600,000 people, provided us defense support in the amount of 15% of our defense budget. Baltic states, neighboring states, they've provided big support. They've sent us the weapon. Maybe it wasn't much, but they've given almost everything they had since the beginning of the Russian aggression. Now, what about Israel? We would want, and we understand that it's not a simple situation for you, but we would want to, in the line next to your country that describes the assistance to our country, we would like to put something in there, in such a table. We can have a look at Poland, and Poland, just like Baltic states, are also threatened by Russia. They are providing us essential logistical support. They hosted 2.5 million Ukrainian refugees, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, Denmark. They're hosting other people. Democratic countries have done all it takes to host Ukrainian families, and we are grateful for this. Most of them are women and children that were hiding from the war. They were looking for shelter. Ireland, that our culture doesn't have such in-depth ties with, as with Israel, with the people of Israel, with the history of Israel. Even they canceled visa regime for Ukrainians so that they could simply just go there and preserve their lives and children. Japan, Canada, they were simplifying access for us. The authorities of Israel stopped visa-free regime these days now, and I don't want to give any assessment to this. This is the choice of each individual country. I just want you to think about this. And in terms of sanctions, when governments introduce sanctions against Russia, this is not about money or about business. This is about values and general security. This is about everyone who is willing to destroy another nation has to be held accountable. Japan, Australia, and many other countries have joined it. Many European countries act together with us against Russian aggression. And unfortunately, we have not seen yet Israel join the sanctions regime. At the same time, I would like to thank you for the medication that has been sent to Ukraine. Unfortunately, for most items of the assistance that we would want to get from Israel, we can't boast any of that assistance yet. And I can't say to journalists what I say to you. Why? Because please remember how much we're linked, how close our ties are, and what should be the level of understanding between us. And we do feel that your society understands these needs. So why we have this miscommunication, misunderstanding with some of the representatives of the government, I don't know. This is why I decided to say this today. I do care about our future relations between our states and our people. This is why I'm being sincere, and I'm sure that the war will end and we will win. And we do have a joint future, great future, a future of great people, because we have this great history and great past. We'll have to look into each other's eyes for many years to come, especially your generation, because students are the future, and this is a beautiful part of our society. This is why I have structured this address like this, for you to decide for yourself, so that we could hear each other with due respect to the history and culture of Israel. Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini.
Дуже дякую.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President, for this sincere and open address to the community of Hebrew University. With your permission, we will now proceed to the second part of the event, in which President WolodimirZalensky agreed to take a few questions from the audience. The questions will be given in English. There is simultaneous translation, and those who will be identified are asked to use the microphone in front and introduce themselves, just name and whatever they think we should all know. So without further ado, and with your permission, Mr. President, we have wait a second, we have the student over there. Yes, please, you are the first.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Slava Ukraini. My name is Anna. I was born in the best city in the world, Kharkiv. My parents are still there. My question is, everyone feels the war in Ukraine, but what is happening in Mariupol, Kherson, and Kharkiv cannot be compared to the situation in Ternopil and Lviv. What should be done so that people would not start to forget that the country is at war and all the fighting has not receded into the background in the daily lives of Ukrainians? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. I visited Kharkiv several weeks ago, and this was the main reason to visit Kharkiv, apart from business meetings and inquiry where we can help. People shouldn't forget that they are part of our country in the blocked areas or where there are fightings in the Kharkiv region. It is very difficult in many ways. Medication, water, drinking water, they have to get ready for the heating season. People quickly forget, and you're absolutely right. People forget in other countries there is awareness of war, and especially people who are not under shelling in Ukraine also, they forget what needs to be done. Well, first of all, they need to understand that no matter where you work, where you study, you have to help those territories where it is very difficult. The voluntary movement is very developed in our country. Those people have to come and help. They have to go to Kharkiv region, and we have lots of students, of course, who are working online, who are collecting donations. They send food, medication, and students have to also spread this information abroad and different areas of our country where, thanks God, so far the missiles have not flown in there. So first of all, they shouldn't forget about war and help to those people in their free time who live there, and spread the truth, spread the information around the world. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Second question, please.
Franco, Director General of the University. So thank you, Mr. President, for your sincere words. They touched us all, and they carry much weight. We speak a lot about the war, but one day this war, God willing, will be over. What is your vision for Ukraine? How do you vision Ukraine 5 and 10 years down the road?
Я думаю, що
I think that in many areas we will have very similar things that are happening in your beautiful country. We will understand very clearly that our neighbor is Russia, and that Russia, even after we finish the war and we win in 10 or 20 years, Russia may attack us again. I'm not saying that this will happen, but there is this possibility. There is this threat. We don't believe Russian society anymore. So in many ways, we will be very similar in terms of rebuilding our country. There's a big post-war plan that would bring together our country and our partner countries in rebuilding Ukraine. A very big role will be in security institutions and security situations. Security in all public spaces in Socium, starting from the borders of our country down to the very center. We are approaching a moment of time where bombing or missiles of anything can happen at any time with a neighbor like this. So we will have a developed air defense system, and many things will be liberalized. We have done that already. We have prepared lots of draft laws, a lot of reforms. We have to make sure that everything would have to develop without any bureaucracy and very quickly. Second of all, today or tomorrow, and I think you know this, we have a big chance to receive the candidate status for European membership. Ukraine have made its own choice. We are moving towards a new civilization, future closer to the European Union, and soon we will be part of that family. And we have sacrificed a lot for that. But the most important is that this is our choice of our future vision. Of course, we're still very young, but in the first and foremost, this is for our children. So we will be building a European state which will be part of the European Union. Part of the European Union, but with a very strong protection that Israel can enjoy. It is a bit more difficult for us because we have a big territory and we need lots of technologies in terms of air defense and protection of the borders on a larger scale, but the approach is going to be the same, very similar.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. We have time for two last short questions. The lady over there, the young lady, please. And introduce yourself first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sasha, and I come from Kharkiv. First of all, dear President Zalensky, I'd like to thank you and send you a lot of support on behalf of many people in Israel. And they're not only Ukrainians, which is great. And my question is, some people and a number of Ukrainian journalists try pushing the internal war against the Ukrainian government, you, and against countries and people that help Ukraine. One of such countries is Israel. So my question is, how do you and the government of Ukraine deals with this issue? Thank you.
Якось такий був переклад. Саша, я прошу вибачення.
Sasha, could you repeat? I didn't quite understand the question. Could you? We've lost a couple of words.
Так.
Can you ask?
Shall I try it in Ukrainian?
Well, do it in English and in Ukrainian.
Okay, I'll repeat it in English and try my best Ukrainian. So.
And don't be fast. Just take your time.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. It's the first time I talk to the president, so.
Все нормально.
It's all right.
So, some people and some Ukrainian journalists try pushing the internal war against the Ukrainian government, against you and against countries and people that help Ukraine around the world. And one of such countries is Israel. So my question is, how do you and the government of Ukraine deals with this issue? And I can repeat it in Ukrainian. I hope it's good enough because I'm from Kharkiv, so my Ukrainian is not perfect. Деякі люди і журналісти. No, may I please make it in Russian, my Ukraine? I'm sorry. Некоторые люди и...
Wait. Is it needed or is the question understood?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Некоторые люди и украинские журналисты пытаются продвигать внутреннюю в Украине войну против украинского государства, против вас и против стран и людей по всему миру, которые помогают Украине. И, например, такая страна – Израиль. И мой вопрос к вам, как вы и вообще правительство в Украине с этим борется?
Thank you. We'll think about the fourth language.
Thank you.
Okay. Я вам відповім.
I will answer, Sasha, in a very simple manner. I'm not fighting with any journalists. Thanks God we have the freedom of speech in Ukraine. They are free to write and think whatever they wish. Second, I'm the president of the country at war, so I don't have time for any other wars. I have one front, and this is the war against the aggression of Russian Federation. This is what I'm fighting against. And thirdly, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I was elected by people to stand for our independence, sovereignty based on our constitution, and this is what I'm doing. Strictly speaking, I have no other time for anything else, and to be honest, I'm not even interested in all of the other things. The most important is to finish this war, to win, and to preserve as many lives as possible, and talking would always be just talking.
Thank you. We still have a few minutes. I think we gave this side 3 questions, so the other... Okay, Hugo.
Mr. President, my name is Boris. I'm originally from Dnipro city. And my question is, have you accepted any feedback, either from international Jewish organizations or from influential Jewish activists regarding the Russian shelling of the sites of the Jewish heritage? Thank you.
Я скажу, що багато єврейських спільнот.
I will say that many Jewish communities who are here in Ukraine, who have been highlighting and reporting on this here and abroad, we have received support from the Jewish Congress and US. I did wanted to have more of that support from the government of Israel in that particular question, because this is our joint sorrow, and that's what it is. I just simply wanted to have more of it, but I'm not trying to hint at anything. It's just as painful to us here in Ukraine and as it is to Israel. This is a big tragedy. And I think I have nothing to add here.
Well, Thank you, Mr. President. We still have time for one last question, and I see so many hands. Okay, how about, yes, you young lady.
Good day, Mr. President. My name is Anna Michil, and my father right now is fighting in the Suwu from the first days of the war. And we want to believe that this war will end soon. Do you see the possibility that in the future our country will follow the example of Israel and all teenagers will be labeled for military service? And because in the current reality, having such a neighbor, it is quite logical. Thank you.
Дякую вам за запитання. Дякую вам.
Thank you very much for this question. Thank you for your support. Thank you to your father for his service. This is one of the models that we are considering in the defense reform that we are preparing for our military and law enforcement. I'm not sure that this will be the exact model that we will follow, but it will be on the table and it will be discussed with the society, with civil society. But you have to know that the fact that our people will know how to fight, and the fact that most of them already know how to fight, and after we have territorial defense troops, these already hundreds of thousands of people, they have been defending our country with no weapons, with bare hands, but now with weapons. So it all speaks to the fact that from the point of view of the defense and military and fire capacity and the number of troops, the situation will be different and the approach will change.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for this unique opportunity to have an unmediated update on the current situation in your country. Thank you for honoring us at Hebrew University. We, on our part, will continue to support Ukrainian scholars and students, and all of us will continue to hope and pray for an end to this dreadful situation in your part of the world. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you for this opportunity, for this honor, and thank you for hosting our students and taking care of them. Thank you very much. All the best to you. Slava Ukraini, peace to Ukraine, peace to Israel.